Parliament is now discussing Operation Sindoor. In fact, the opposition asked the government to convene the special session of Parliament and conduct an all-party meeting and explain to the people through the political party system, through the parliamentary system, what has happened around Operation Sindoor. But Narendra Modi government refused to yield to the opposition demands. Finally, the parliament monsoon session has begun and parliament both houses have taken up the debate and discussion on Operation Sindoor. So many questions arise here. Well, is it right to discuss Operation Sindoor and the related matters? Well, national security is a sacred thing. It is not debatable. We should not politicize national security. If anything is to be above politics, I am sure the national security comes first. There is no dispute about it. But opposition, or for that matter, anybody who is asking the parliament to debate, they are not asking the government to give the operational details. The strategic plans, the strategic maneuvering of the armed forces. Nobody will ask any information that may or that can undermine the efforts of our armed forces to maintain the peace, tranquility and teach our rivals a lesson. But what are we asking actually? We are asking certain legitimate and genuine questions to make governments accountable. So in the name of nationalism, in the name of national security, we cannot gloss over certain critical questions that are actually very important for the national security too. Let me begin by analyzing what are those questions. The first question is whether the intelligence information did exist or not. Media reports suggest that there was specific intelligence information that something big may happen. The terrorists are planning to do something serious, crime. Well, there were two high-level meetings to review the preparedness also. Mallikarjun Kharge, Congress chief, even alleged that the Prime Minister Narendra Modi cancelled his tour to Jammu Kashmir due to this intelligence inputs. If all these things are true, why did the government fail to provide adequate security to the tourists who are come to visit the Baisaran Valley in Pahalgam? Well, if really intelligence inputs are not there, then that raises yet another fundamental question. What are the reasons for this intelligence failure that led to the brutal murder of 26 Indians? Then the second question is, well, Baisaran Valley lies in Pahalgam. Pahalgam is at the beginning of is a base camp for Amarnath Yatra. Registrations for Amarnath Yatra have begun. This area, Pahalgam to Amarnath Yatra route, is prone to terror attacks. There is a history of terrorist attacks in this area. Still, what prevented governments from providing the minimum security to the tourists? If an MLA goes, 2 gunmen will be with him. If any VIP, central the state minister goes, there will be dozens of security men around that so-called VIP. But when 4,000 terrorists were there in the Baisaran Valley, not a single Jawan was present. And the terrain is such that 1 hour after the attack, the security forces could rush to that area. That is a sufficient period for the perpetrators of terror attack to escape very easily. So why was not there any security in a highly risky area, that too in Kashmir, that too in Baisaran Valley, that too in Pahalgam, when 4,000 terrorists are there? It's a very prominent tourist place and often described as mini Switzerland. So why did the government fail to provide adequate security to the tourist. Surprisingly, the government argues that the union government was not informed of the fact that the Baisaran Valley was open for tourists. Surprised, this is quite shocking, because when tourists from all over India, including Hyderabad and Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, could know that the Baisaran Valley is now open for tourists, then, not terrorists, open for tourists, what prevented government from ensuring security from terrorists? So terrorists could go know the information that tourists are going there. Tour operators knew that tourists are going there. And tourists across the country knew that Baisaran Valley is now open for tourists. But the union government claimed that it was not aware. And it is surprising, can this be possible? And Union Home Minister reportedly acknowledged in the all-party meeting that there was some security lapse. Otherwise, why will we sit here to discuss? So, but the government refuses to accept the security lapses, leave alone correcting those mistakes to prevent future untoward incidents. So that's the second most important question the opposition is raising. Then the third important question is, India got a clear battlefield advantage. We have shown our air superiority. Pakistan's critical air bases were struck, like the Nur Khan, Sargodha. There were reports of even attacking the places very, very near to the Pakistani nuclear establishment. So despite all that, why did Modi government agree for a ceasefire? So in fact, the Parivar, the BJP supporters, have been asking to capture the Pak-occupied Kashmir, to teach Pakistan a lesson. But Modi government suddenly agreed for a ceasefire. The explanation is that the Pakistani Director General of Military Operations called first. I don't understand. What is important is whether should we accept the ceasefire or not. Whether Pakistan has pleaded for it, or whether Pakistan was first to request. Did they request before attacking our tourists? So why should we yield to Pakistani request when it is strategically not useful for us? So the Modi government cannot escape from giving a vague response that the Pakistan pleaded, so we have agreed. Why should we agree even if Pakistan pleads? So what is the strategic advantage for India by in accepting the ceasefire when Indian military forces have achieved spectacular air superiority, military superiority? And I am not finding fault with the government's decision, but the nation wants to know what is the strategic advantage India got by stopping the military operation. This is the third question which opposition and everybody is asking. Then the fourth question is, well, Donald Trump has by now claimed that he was the reason for stopping the India-Pak conflict. I think he has said this 24 times, not once, twice, 24 times. And he has been telling this everywhere, in America, outside America, everywhere. Foreign minister has responded to it. Well, there were leaked reports that there were reports, not leaked, reports that the Prime Minister Modi told Trump in his one-to-one personal conversation. But Prime Minister Narendra Modi till now did not publicly dismiss Donald Trump's claims. Well, why should we hesitate? Look at how the world leaders are responding. Japan is a security ally of America. Japan doesn't have a security of its own. It has outsourced its defense security to America. Still, Japanese Prime Minister is forthright in criticizing Donald Trump. Canada Prime Minister is forthright in criticizing Donald Trump. Mexico, a nation whose 86% exports go to America only. But still the Mexican Prime Minister strongly questioned Donald Trump. Small nations like Colombia relatively much weaker nations have questioned. Like this, every other country is questioning Donald Trump. But I think Narendra Modi, Indian Prime Minister, is the only one leader who refused to call what Trump is telling a bluff, despite US President claiming 24 times. Trump has been repeatedly claiming there would have been a nuclear conflict. Using the trade as a weapon, I forced India and Pakistan to stop fighting. Well, this is a very serious challenge to us. If it is true, if India has agreed for a ceasefire under American pressure, that is a serious erosion of strategic autonomy, which every Indian should be worried of. Then the next point is, well, what about the diplomatic fallout of Operation Sindoor? Well, opposition supported government, all party delegation toured across the world, but still what has happened? Not a single big power has supported us and clearly came out condemning Pakistan. On the contrary, Pak could get the ironclad support of China. President Trump now saying that he loves Pakistan. Asim Munir has been given the highest respect and regard in White House. Trump called it an honor to meet him. So Pakistan could get Turkey's support. European Union was absolutely was a passive spectator. Donald Trump was diabolical, duplicity, hypocrisy US was demonstrating. Well, China will not obviously support us. Russia was in favor of India, but the kind of support which we used to get from Soviet Union is now missing. Is this not a diplomatic loss? And surprisingly, the Quad, in which India is a member, India is indispensable for American strategies in Indo-Pacific. Quad is an anti-China grouping headed by United States. Despite India's significant presence in Quad to contain China, United States-led Quad refused to name Pakistan. At United Nations, with the active support of United States, Pakistan could become the vice chair of counterterrorism. Nothing can be more preposterous than this. Nothing can be more shameful than this. It is, in fact, seriously erodes the credibility of UN system. Well, Pakistan did not get this honor without the support of the United States. If any permanent member opposes, Pakistan will not get this status. So the post-Operation Sindoor diplomacy reveals a possible upper hand for Pakistan. And I'll tell you another disturbing thing, not interesting. Pakistan always wanted to internationalize the Kashmir issue. India was always resisting. India opposed any third-party mediation Kashmir dispute. India always opposed hyphenating these two South Asian countries, India and Pakistan. But what has happened? Trump is repeatedly hyphenating India and Pakistan. And in fact, he has agreed to mediate on the Kashmir question. All this clearly indicates that India has somehow could not convert its battlefield superiority into diplomatic superiority, something where the government of India has possibly failed. So the opposition wants answers to these questions. Well, unfortunately, opposition is also asking unnecessarily how many jets were down. This is actually a nonsensical question. In a war, obviously there will be some losses. And India's Director General of Air Operations acknowledged right during the Operation Sindoor. The Chief of Defence Staff has publicly acknowledged in his interaction with the foreign media in Singapore. Well, that may be questionable. Why should he speak to foreign media? On a foreign land, he should reveal this. Well, that is a different question altogether. But we, Indian Army, has publicly stated that there are losses in any war and which are obvious, but for strategic reasons we don't want to reveal. Well, Trump wants to tell that the Rafales were down because he wants to promote US-made F-35 stealth aircraft. Well, that is American agenda. They wanted to defame Rafale because Rafale is produced by a French firm called Dassault. So that the American military industrial complex, actually aided and supported by its President Donald Trump, wants to undermine Rafale. Why should India worry about it? Well, obviously there can be some Indian military assets might have been lost, but that is a part of the war. We should look at the big picture. The big picture is clear. India had a clear battlefield superiority. We can ask the government, why could you not convert into a diplomatic upper hand? Well, that is the genuine question. But why should opposition, especially Rahul Gandhi, repeatedly ask how many Indian jets were down? Well, this gives BJP an opportunity to blame opposition that the opposition is carrying pro-Pakistani agenda. But notwithstanding my criticism on opposition demand for details of Indian jets lost during the Operation Sindoor, I think there are serious questions before the government. The government cannot escape from answering them. They have to be accountable to the people through the parliament.